Hey everyone, it's the Koopa Man. Thanksgiving is just around the corner. A time for food, to give thanks for what you got, to wait in line all night to trample over your fellow man to save 20 cents on a pop-up toaster, and more. But while you're carving your bird, just remember, there's someone out there a little less fortunate than you. And his name is Steve Martin. Seriously, this man is in a league of his own. From being one of the legendary killer comedians from the 60s alongside Carlin and Pryor, guest hosting on Saturday Night Live back when that actually meant something, and being in such classic cult hit movies such as Father of the Bride, Three Amigos, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and the subject of today's video, heck, he even had a musical career at one point. This year, Mr. Martin announced that he'd be retiring to live out his golden years in peace, and I'd say he's more than earned it. In tribute, I would like to present for our reviewing pleasure one of his greatest roles in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. In this film, Martin plays a man by the name of Neil Page, an ad manager on a business trip to New York City trying to get home to Chicago to have Thanksgiving with his family, but it seems at every turn his voyage gets delayed by one thing or another, and somehow or another he ends up stuck with the last person he wants to be with. Boy, I can relate to that one. I heard that! Did you pay your taxes to the New Republic yet? I'll be going. That's right, co-starring with Steve Martin is another legendary actor who needs no introduction, John Candy. While Mr. Candy tragically passed away in 1994 at the young age of 43, his career speaks for itself. An alum of SCTV, Canada's answer to SNL, Candy would leave audiences rolling in their seats with every appearance he's made. While he's not always been in the starring role, every time he's been on screen surely made an impact in films such as National Lampoon's Vacation, where he played the Wally World security guard, Home Alone, where he was a polka musician who got Mrs. McAllister home to her son Kevin, and he even had a few starring roles in Uncle Buck, The Great Outdoors, Cool Runnings, and of course, this very picture. Though it's kind of unfortunate he never got the role of jolly old Saint Nick before his passing. Oh well. Anyway, this is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. The film opens up and we see Neil trapped in a meeting with an indecisive client. While this is going on, we can see Neil's urgency and feel his impatience. Heck, the scene itself drags on to underline the point. That in itself is a hilarious cinematic sense. 2 minutes in and it looks like he's gonna make a decision and end the meeting, but then he doesn't. And that's hilarious. That is how you subvert expectations, Hollywood. Anyway, it's decided to reconvene after the holidays, and because Neil has to catch his flight, he doesn't have time to go to his desk and get his gloves. Then, when he's on the crowded New York streets trying to get a cab, which as an ex-New Yorker I can tell is quite a hassle during rush hour, it leads to a showdown with another guy for the next available cab. Unfortunately, he trips over something and misses it, leading to the other guy to take it. He looks down on what he tripped on and it appears to be a footlocker with the name Del Griffith on it. Interesting. Neil, however, is desperate, so he's willing to bribe another fare to let him take the cab he called. However, while negotiations are going on, someone else takes the cab, leaving Neil up a creek without a paddle and down $75 to an attorney. He's so mad that he actually chases the cab down the busy Manhattan streets. He catches it and catches a glimpse of the guy who took the fare, but then it drives off before he could get any further, leading to Neil being almost late to catch his flight and his luggage getting run over. Cut to LaGuardia. Neil is just getting off the bus with minutes to get his plane. Fortunately though, and unfortunately, he's not too late because the flight got delayed. This is when we cut to Neil's family and we see what he's missing out on and why he's so desperate to come home. It is a sweet scene. Fun fact though, the house you see as the Page's home in this movie is actually just down the street from the McAllister's home from Home Alone. Anyway, Neil calls home and the kids know what's wrong right away. He guesses the flight shouldn't leave later than 10, but seeing how much of the movie there is left, it's probably not going to be that simple. Neil sits down to wait for his flight in the lounge when he realizes that the guy next to him is none other than the guy who took his cab. The guy tries to make it up to Neil, but it's clear that Neil just wants to be left alone. It is what it is, and he's more concerned about getting back to his wife and kids. The guy introduces himself as Del Griffith. Interesting, that was the name on the trunk Neil tripped over earlier. Convenient. Del is a traveling shower ring salesman with a cheerful disposition, but a bit of an odor. And as luck would have it, get used to me saying that, he booked a seat right next to Neil on the flight. Just when you think it couldn't get any worse for Neil, it turns out a huge blizzard cooked up over Chicago, closing O'Hare International. The flight he's on gets rerouted to Kansas. Luckily, Del has a room reserved at a motel a bit of a ways from the airport and is willing to share it with Neil so he doesn't have to sleep on the airport floor as all the other hotels are booked. Plus, he still really wants to make it up to him for stealing his cab. Reluctantly, Neil goes along with this. They hailed to the cabbie, and when he came near, the license plate said Wolf and there was dice in the mirror. If anything, I could say this cab was rare, but they said, forget it, yo home's to Bel Air. Anyway, they get to the motel, and unfortunately, they gotta share a single bedroom. And to make matters worse, the lock is less than safe, and the clerk accidentally returns the wrong credit cards. This is where I gotta point out the brilliance of this movie. Every detail we see on screen, some we don't even notice, is a joke setup, with punchlines coming later. Sometimes you even forget they happen when they do, like what happened with the New York cab scene. Anyway, they get settled in, and Neil's patience is worn out, so he unloads on Del, leading to this scene.
And by the way, when you're telling these little stories, here's a good idea. Have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener.
You want to hurt me? Go right ahead if it makes you feel any better. I'm an easy target. Yeah, you're right. I talk too much. I also listen too much. I could be a cold-hearted cynic like you. But I don't like to hurt people's feelings. Well, you think what you want about me. I'm not changing. I like me. My wife likes me. My customers like me. Because I'm the real article. What you see is what you get.
There's a lot of heart in that speech. That's because Candy is putting as much of himself as he is playing a character, and it's one of the more memorable scenes in the movie because of it. So overnight they get robbed, which they discover the next morning at breakfast, and they get pretty stressed and angry about it. They're not totally helpless though, as they manage to get a ride on the back of a pickup truck driven by the innkeeper's son to take them to the train station, as Eric's travel to Chicago is still grounded. And they have to ride in the back, which makes Neil feel the cold on his hands. Bet he wishes he went back to his desk for his gloves now, huh? Like I said, you forget these setups happen, but here it is, like halfway through the movie later. They get to the station, albeit covered in frost, and they manage to get tickets, just not together. I would say Dignolo was trying to ditch Del, but he did look a little disappointed, and that's not just a look to spare Del's feelings. Well, it seems like it is goodbye for the two of them, and they'll be on their way to Chicago from here. Or not, as the train breaks down, entirely stranding all the passengers just outside of Jefferson City, Missouri. On his way to getting a ride into town, Neil spots Del struggling with his trunk. He hesitates, but he eventually caves to help his travel acquaintance. In for a penny, in for a pound. The two get on a Greyhound bus to St. Louis, where they'd be able to at least see if there's an available flight, or rent a car if there isn't. And, well, there's a reason bus travel isn't seen as desirable, I'll put it nicely. Everyone, to keep people's spirits high, Del tries starting a sing-along, and asks Neil to start it along. Of course, Neil's tastes are a bit more refined than the crowd who'd be traveling by Greyhound, so it leads to this.
Who knows a tune here? Who wants to sing a tune? Who's got a song?
I got one,
You got one. Neil Page has got one.
3 coins in a fountain, each one seeking seeking happiness, thrown by 3 hopeful lovers, no?
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones, they're the modern Tony family. From the town of Bedrock, they're a page right out of history. When you're with the Flintstones, have a yabba-dabba-doo time, a yabba-doo time, you'll have a gay old time.
At the bus station in St. Louis, Dell gets to work selling his shower rings to anyone who'd listen to him, and proves he'd be quite an effective and persuasive salesman. Heck, he'd probably be able to sell ice to an Eskimo. Meanwhile, Neil tries to call home, but his wife is watching the kids at the school Thanksgiving pageant, so no dice. Probably having a big heartache realizing that he's missing it. With the money Dell makes hawking his goods, the pair are at least able to have some lunch before they try to get a means of getting to Chicago. All the airlines are booked solid. If they're gonna make it, it won't be by plane. And since they haven't really been able to accomplish much beyond Jack and Squat, Neil decides maybe it's best the two part ways from there. It offends Dell a tiny bit, but he's more hurt than angry, and Neil almost immediately regrets it. Oh well, he might have a small point though. Maybe they are holding each other back and will accomplish more alone. Well, let's see how it goes.
Welcome to Marathon. May I help you?
Yes.
How may I help you?
You can start by wiping that fucking dumbass smile off your rosy fucking cheeks. Then you can give me a fucking automobile. A fucking Datsun, a fucking Toyota, a fucking Mustang, a fucking Buick. 4 fucking wheels and a seat.
I really don't care for the way you're speaking to me.
And I really don't care for the way your company left me in the middle of fucking nowhere with fucking keys to a fucking car that isn't fucking there. And I really didn't care to fucking walk down a fucking highway and across a fucking runway to get back here to have you smile at my fucking face. I want a fucking car right fucking now.
May I see your rental agreement?
I threw it away.
Oh, boy.
Oh boy, what?
You're fucked.
Well, that could have gone better, couldn't it? No joke, this one scene is the only reason this movie has an R rating, and it's intentional. John Hughes, the director, believed that it would only be taken seriously as a comedy movie if it had an R rating, so he wrote just enough F-bombs to get it and placed them strategically just in this one scene. At wit's end, Neil tries to hire a cab to Chicago, but he makes the mistake of insulting the cabbie, leading to him being assaulted. Thankfully, who's there but Dell to save him and give him a lift in his own rental car? The men, however, are irritated and get into an argument, but it seems they're at least able to cooperate and trade off all-night driving duties.
You can talk about the pit, barbecue, the band was jumping, the people too. Mess around. They're doing the mess around. They're doing the mess around. Everybody doing the mess around. Now, when I say stop, don't you move a peg. When I say go, just shake your leg and do the mess around. I declare, do the mess around. Now let me have it, that boy.
Unfortunately, after that mess around, the car gets messed around while Dell fiddles with his cult, and they end up going the wrong way on the interstate and nearly smash headfirst into 2 oncoming trucks. Then, to make matters worse, the car catches fire due to a discarded cigarette in the back seat. All of this causes Neil to break down laughing, because he may have had his wallet destroyed in that fire, but he's not gonna owe the rental company squat. Although, it turns out that Dell paid for the car with Neil's visa and the two get into a fight again. They manage to drive the burning wreck to a nearby motel to stay for the night, but Neil is so fed up with Dell that he tells him to pay for his own damn room, while he hawks his watch just to get a place to sleep for the night. It doesn't take long for Neil to feel sorry for poor old Dell, all alone out in the cold, and he invites him in for the night while they bond over the minibar and agree to start fresh the next morning. The next day, they drive their burnt-out wreck of what's left of a car, but it gets impounded by the local highway patrol and they're left stranded. Fortunately, Del persuades a xenophobic milk truck driver to get them the rest of the way in the back of his truck. At the L station, the two part ways one final time, and Neil boards the train bound for home. But remember what I said about this movie in contextual setups?
Believe it?
It's been a hell of a trip.
Sure has.
But, after all is said and done, you did get me home, and I really appreciate it.
Hey, next time, let's go first class, all right?
Oh, God, I hope there isn't a next time.
I know what you mean. I really do. This you?
Yeah.
It's been great meeting you, Neil. It really has. Again, I'm sorry if I caused you any trouble.
Oh, no, you didn't cause me any trouble. You got me home. And, a little late.
Couple days.
But, I'm a little wiser, too, so.
Me too.
Happy holidays.
Same. Happy Thanksgiving, Neil.
Okay.
Give my love to the family, will you?
Same to you.
Maybe I'll get a chance to meet him one day.
Okay. Say hello to Marie for me. I feel like I know her.
Yeah.
So. And you have a happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, you know it.
So long.
I like me. My wife likes me.
At the very least, the absolute minimum. You got a woman you love to grow old with.
Right.
I've been spending too much time away from home. I haven't been home for years. I haven't been home for years. I haven't been home for years. Del, what are you doing here? You said you were going home. What are you doing here?
I don't have a home. Marie's been dead for 8 years.
That's right, Del Griffith was homeless all along. He had no business in Chicago more than anywhere else he wandered. He was just going out of his way to get this desperate man home out of the good of his heart. Neil invites Del to spend Thanksgiving with him and his family, and we're given a heartwarming scene of the family being introduced to this kind man who helped get Neil home. Some people say this was intended to be a bittersweet ending because Del sees all he's lost in Neil's family and will still be homeless at the end of the day, but that's a load of bull crap. Neil owns a marketing firm and Del is the best salesman he's ever met. No doubt he's able to hire him and able to get him a new job and a new lease on life, able to start over since his wife's passing. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with you people looking for the negativity in every happy moment? Anyway, this is really a must-watch movie for every Thanksgiving. It's one of the most brilliantly shot comedies I've ever seen, with context clues dropped in every scene, and it's also the most heartwarming as well. Steve Martin and John Candy have such great chemistry, it's no surprise that this became a holiday classic. Anyway, that's all I gotta say. If you can find this movie, give it a watch this Thanksgiving season. This has been the Koopa Man. Happy Thanksgiving. Oh, and I'll be taking Black Friday off to keep myself charged up for the Christmas videos. See you guys then.